Everybody, good morning. It's Dr. Cindy Stark coming in live at Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm just making sure. Okay, I am now live. Hey, everybody, it's Dr. Cindy Stark coming in live for my Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern for my Facebook Live. I want to know how everybody's doing today. I don't know about you guys, but I noticed that for me in my personal life, I feel like I'm in a major season of change. And what is, I think, astonishing me the most about this season of change and just how everything is seemed to be going at really, it's not just my life, but it's other people's lives too. It's just like changes are happening at warp speed, whereas some things were kind of crippling along, humbling along, cobbling along for years and years, and it's just like every month is some huge dramatic change in your life. I just want to know if anybody else is noticing that. If you're coming in live, if you can type in hashtag live, and if you're catching me on the replay, if you can just type in hashtag replay. I love to know who's here, both live and on the replay. And just tell me where you're from so I can know where it is that all you guys are coming from. And if anything that I say today about triggers, we're talking all about triggers and how if you don't control your triggers will end up controlling you. And so if anything that I say today resonates with you, chances are it's going to resonate with your friend. So I'll make this global kind of a public talk so you can share it with your friends and family. Nothing is a greater compliment to me than when people share my talks. So, again, I run Soul Circle Academy, and it's an online transformational health program. It's 12 weeks long. It's for anyone that deals with subconscious blocks they don't even know that they have, and it's all due to, unbeknownst to us, childhood trauma. Each one of us suffer from one kind of childhood trauma or another, and people sometimes think, well, I wasn't physically abused or sexually abused, so I didn't have any trauma. Well, it doesn't even have to be that. It can just be a parent showing favoritism over one child versus the other, or some bullying that you went through at the hands of, kids in middle school. It can be any of that. Okay, so what we do is we go in and we identify all the different childhood trauma that you have uniquely suffered from, and then we see what kind of belief systems that has created in your subconscious mind. And I always say trauma is not what happens to you. The worst trauma that you will experience in your life is what you tell yourself that trauma meant about you over and over and over again for your whole life. And when you can actually look at your behavior and how it's matching up with the things that you believe about yourself, then that's when you can actually get yourself unstuck in life. And if you're ready to heal and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you've read all the books and gone to all the counseling and done all the programs, and you just see changes for a couple of months or a couple of weeks until your subconscious mind reminds you of everything since 1987 that doesn't match with those new, um, affirmations that you're learning, or new patterns of behavior that you're learning up here in your frontal lobe. If your whole subconscious mind is wrestling with what's in your conscious mind here, and you're sick and tired of that, and you feel like you're living literally a figment of your imagination where you think that you have all of your willpower with you, but nothing's happening the way that you want it to happen, then just book a call to talk to me or someone on my team. Hey, Lynn. Hey, Hannah. It's good to see y'all this morning. I have put that up there in the, I was about to say in the show notes. This is not really a show, but in the show notes, the little blurb right above. So, what happens is if you're ready to heal and you're ready to see what's keeping you stuck in your life, we actually go in and we look at all of your gestalts, which are pieces of your subconscious mind, and we see where those things are filled up with the negative emotions that are just waiting, sitting there, just waiting to overspill into a really a really like the most extreme version of that emotion. So like fear is here to tell us things about ourselves. It's here to keep us safe. But if you're fearful over and over again, it spills out into anxiety. And then anger. Anger is here to tell us really great things about ourselves, but not regulated, left unregulated, anger will spill out into rage. Sadness is something really good and helpful for us. Our subconscious mind is here for us, but left unregulated, that sadness turns into depression. And then guilt. Guilt is one of those emotions that really helps us in society know how to treat other people. And left unregulated, that can turn into shame. And when you're living your life at the top of those emotions, so you're always just raging at someone, you're always anxious, you're always depressed, and you're always guilty, you're not living your life as you're meant to live. No one is meant to live from those top emotions. That's exhausting. You'll end up finding things to kind of like your subconscious mind will try to find anything that it can do to kind of calm you down and rest. And so many times you just end up buzzing out and numbing out with anything from drinking alcohol to, our subconscious mind comes up with crazy things that we think will help us with those top emotions. You'll become a shopaholic, a sex addict, like I said, drinking alcohol, uh, just finding variety and numbing out in all the wrong ways. And then what ends up happening is all those original emotions are there, and then all the fallout, it's like nuclear waste fallout of all those negative coping behaviors that you do too. And it's just then you have more problems than you even thought you did. So we with our gestalt and our reticular activating system, we are literally we're making a lens that we're seeing the world through, that we think is an accurate representation of the world, but it's really just us recreating our childhood lives over and over and over again. And if none of this is making sense, please go back to my first 3 talks over in my Facebook group, Reclaim Your Life and Health. And it's the first 3 talks from around July of last year, where I really go through what is the reticular activating system, how are our emotions stored. But yeah, you think that you're seeing everything around the world as it really is, but really you're just seeing it through a lens that that you've created with your own unique societal programming and parental programming. And so unless something in your world that you're seeing matches the the inhibited version of yourself or the wounded version of yourself, your subconscious mind and your eyeballs literally cannot see it. So you are creating the exact same life that has driven you crazy and kept you small and kept you limited and kept you inhibited your whole life. You're living that over and over and over again. And that is not having a life of power. Power is the ability to act, and you don't have any power when you're living from full gestalt and a subconscious mind that is just riddled with all the limiting beliefs of our childhood. Because if you just want to keep living exactly as you were living and you want to just like recreate the life that your parents gave you, then this is not for you. But if you're here for more, if you know that you're meant for more and you're ready to be healed, then keep coming here. I promise to come in here every Tuesday at 10, and I'm going to help you with all my might learn how to live, and by harnessing the power of your brain. Anything that I learn, I bring it right here to you guys. But if you're really ready to heal and not just learn, and there's always um, places for everybody. If you're just on your learning journey, then that's great. Keep coming in here every Tuesday at 10, and I would love to give you free tools and more power to learn how to use your subconscious mind and use this beautiful brain that God gave us. But if you're really ready to heal and not just learn, and you're ready to dig down deep and do the work, then, like I said, book a call and let's see what's holding you back and see if you're ready for the best 12 weeks of your life. It'll pay you dividends for the rest of your life if you'll just invest in yourself for the next 12 weeks. And I see that Jenny and Stacy have come in, so thank you, ladies, for being here. It's so good to see y'all this morning. So today we're talking about triggers, and Jenny's my cousin, so she'll remember this one. But one of my so triggers can be positive or negative. So I'm thinking of one from my grandmother's house when we would go. She had this lake house, and it was at Lake Norman up in Charlotte, North Carolina. And she would make this spaghetti with meat sauce, and we would eat it on those gold silverware. Jenny, I'm sure you remember that. And then she would serve it with this is just the most funny thing, but she would serve it with saltine crackers with a big fat slab of butter on top of it. And that is a trigger that involves all five of my senses, hearing and smelling and tasting and touching and seeing this very interesting meal that she would make. And it just reminds me of the love of my grandmother, the love of my mom's mom. And, she was the closest thing to my mother that I had. And we got to spend, as I recall, all of our summers with her. So my mom and dad didn't have to pay for babysitters, I believe. But she would make that spaghetti with meat sauce and then the saltine with butter. And we'd have the beautiful gold things, yeah, house shaped like a barn, and yes, gold silverware. And so that an anchor was created in my brain back then. Okay, so every year, I believe from age 7 to 12 at least, I would go visit her, just be surrounded by all this love. We would get to go out on the lake, we'd get to paint pictures, and then that meal with those smells. And it immediately makes me think, I'm loved, I'm accepted the way that I am. All the love in her house is just natural and automatic. I don't even have to think about it, right? I smell spaghetti cooking, and that's what is recreated for me. But then there's also negative triggers, right? And I know I always in my training programs we always talk about this one instance where this little boy was 7 years old and he was at his father's funeral, and someone, he was just like, there was nothing sadder in his life, and someone goes and touches the back of his shoulder. Well, then he gets to be a a huge speaker, right? And he's like getting ready to go speak on a stage in front of millions of people, and someone touches the back of his shoulder to say, good luck, do great today. And it took him immediately back to when he was 7 years old and he was at his father's funeral, and he could not give that speech, in the way that he wanted to because it triggered him. It's automatic. You can't even you can't help it. It's something to do with a certain setting, and when those triggers are there, then you will, whether you want to or not, good or bad, and I'm specifically talking about bad ones, you can recreate those worst traumas in your life. And it's almost like you're knocking yourself out at your knees when you don't even mean to. You it's trauma that you don't even realize that you have. It was just kind of set into your subconscious mind when you were younger. And I'm here to tell you, in case I'm the only person to tell you today, people aren't going to walk around on eggshells your whole entire life trying to make sure that they don't touch on your triggers, or trigger you by certain things that they do or say. So you have to learn, I always say, you have to learn to speak up, so that if something is not happening the way that you want it to happen, or something is really triggering you, you can say, hey, did you mean, X and Y when you said, A and B? But then it's so hard, right? When to actually speak your mind when you're not able to even identify what it is that's triggering you. And if you're about to set down a path of poisoning your own relationships and knocking yourself out at the knees because you think that someone, didn't support you at work because they didn't hold meetings with you regularly, and you don't know how to speak up for yourself, then you're just kind of like keeping yourself at a really low level for years and years and years and not even knowing how to speak up for yourself. But you never can speak up for yourself unless you identify the triggers, identify the limiting beliefs, and resource those really, really young, silenced versions of yourself that have just been silenced for far too long. And you don't even know how to get to that unless you do a program like my program, where you go in and lay it all out, lay out your whole entire life, see all the different influences and all the different limiting beliefs and the ways that all the different negative emotions are showing up in your life. And then once and for all, stop making inaccurate belief systems from your past. Otherwise, those people are able to control you all the time, and un you know unfortunate circumstances are able to control you for the rest of your life, and you don't even realize what's happening. So Lynn is saying this is the truth. Hidden traumas appear before our eyes, and we don't even know sometimes why we or our body is reacting to these things until we dig deeply. And Jenny says triggers are there to remind us for who we are and who we have become. However, we can learn a better way to react to them. And then Lynn is saying what we focus on grows. So if we focus on healing the triggers, we start to focus on the healing and the growth. Exactly. Both of you guys. Thank you for that. Um, I think that we just have these patterns of behaviors, and in a way it's kind of kept us safe because it's kept us small, it's kept us in a very small comfort zone where everything is predictable and everything is routine. And but if you want something more for your life, then you have to come up with a different way of living your life. And I was just talking to my daughter this morning, she's 20, and talking about these triggers. She's dating this guy, and she had she had shared with me this morning that there were some things he was doing, whether it was like not texting or something at a party or something, and she immediately thought that that meant he didn't like her. And so she learned from 7 years old, when people don't like you, you just, in order to prevent like massive amounts of pain, you just withdraw and you hold back and you turn into a wallflower, and you limit the damage done. I'm sure if any of y'all were not the popular girls at school or the popular guys at school, you know what I'm talking about. And so she was accidentally doing that with this new guy that she's dating, and he's just like, why aren't you talking anymore? Why are you seeming so distant? And she said, oh, well, when you, and she knew because she's watched me heal, and she's watched me know how important it is for you to speak your truth. And she said, well, I assumed that when you did, this and this, that it meant that you didn't like me. And he said, oh my gosh, not at all. He said, I thought the same thing. And she said, Mom, we're closer now than ever. She said, actually, it 100% changed my life, just knowing how to identify my trigger, speak it out, tell him what my limiting belief was about it that was inaccurate, and now we're on a whole nother path. Exactly. Ask me how I know. She's watched me live this for, I mean, of course she's only 20, so she's only watched me live this way for 18 years until I got my healing a couple of years ago. But I've been living this way for 37 years, and I just got so sick and tired of it that I would do anything I could, any work that was put ahead of me, whatever it cost, money wise, time wise, friend wise, relationship wise. A lot of things had to get out of my life in order for me to walk in a new path and walk toward the life that I know that is meant to be lived for me. Because I also was just walking around with a bunch of triggers, and life is, I just want you to tell you that your life is meant to be lived, and triggers will absolutely ruin that. And again, don't think that people are going to walk around on eggshells thinking, or being able to read your mind to know what's even triggering you. But once you're able to kind of get healing from yourself from like the time you were born up to present, and actually fall in love with your whole entire self and identify what your core needs are, and you're able to fall in love with your whole self, then and only then can you accept all the love that's around you. And I say not even accept the love that's around you, but see that there actually is love around you. Because until you have your kind of like the scales, I feel like it's like the scales coming off your eyes. Until you have the scales removed from your eyes, you're not even able to see the love that's right there for you. And so you certainly can't accept the love if you're not even able to see the love. You know what I'm saying? And when you're able to fix your subconscious mind and stop just working with your frontal lobe, right? I think so many people think that all they have to do is read the right book or go to the right seminar, do the one missing Bible study, or read the one missing book, or have that one missing counselor, and all that is working right here with your conscious mind and your frontal lobe. That's only running 4% of the show. But then you have this other 96% that's competing with the 4%. And so once you're able to completely harness and heal that subconscious mind, then you can actually stop living that distorted version of that truth that's preventing you from the life that you want. Because you clear it, you clear everything that's stored in your subconscious mind, and then you heal it. And you and only you are your own responsibility. And when you're able to get this kind of healing for yourself, no one can take that healing away from you. And you don't have to keep going to any more counselors or therapists or doctors. You don't have to keep going and getting bottles of pills to kind of numb up the pain or mask the rageaholic inside of you. You're able to regulate every one of those negative emotions, and then and only then, when you live from like an observer role, can you completely resource all those versions of yourself so that you can live the life that you're meant to live. Each one of us has a a rule book, I call it, kind of like a rule book of kind of like where we're going to go in our lives and the amazing things that we're going to do. But if all we're doing is taking ourselves out of the knees every other day unintentionally, then you're you're not even able to see what that rule book is, much less actually go and live it. And I always think about my own dad and how his mom and dad must have dealt with emotions. All of us in the year 22, I don't know when you might be coming in and watching this on a replay, it might be 2023 or beyond, but we have so much information at our fingertips now and so much awareness about emotional intelligence and it's called like emotional IQ, where people in our parents generation, all they were doing literally were tending to fields, harvesting crops, surviving the Great Depression, trying to make a dollar stretch so they could feed their hungry kids. They were never even able to think about regulating their emotions. And if they are all they're doing is constantly in fear of like the crops not coming in or the money not coming in, then all they're ever going to do is revert back to the age when that gestalt of a fear, let's say, what the first age where the gestalt of fear started filling up. And usually that's sometime between ages 2 and 7. So our parents were walking around a lot of times dealing with, hey, Sabrina and Michelle, dealing with completely fired off amygdalas, completely full gestalts, living like from the emotional intelligence really of a 2-year old or a 7-year old. And that trauma that they experienced when they were tending the fields and the food wasn't coming, or that during the Great Depression and the money was nowhere to be found, that trauma is stored at a cellular level in them. So it's passed down. There's actually evidence that there's 14 generations of trauma that are present in our DNA. And when you have trauma stored at a cellular level and your conscious mind and your unconscious mind are not in sync with each other, because this is completely trying to hold you down and keep you small and keep you protected by living out all these limiting beliefs, which you know in your mind what you want to do, but you just can't do it because of what's still back here and gunking up your filters. You can expect not only living from a really small place that you don't want any part of, but you can also expect dis-ease or ailments in your body, because what happens is when that trauma is in there, it actually stops our DNA from acting the way that it needs to be acting to control diseases. You will see autoimmune diseases that are running rampant. You'll see things like diabetes, hypothyroidism, obesity, inflammation, arthritis. Do any of y'all have any of these things? If you do, chances are the origin of all of those, although most doctors don't talk about this, they talk about the end stage of all of those, and they're like, well, let me cut out that arthritis, let me treat that diabetes with medicines. But when the inciting event or the triggering event was way back when, let's say 14 generations ago, definitely 30 40 years ago, and definitely 2 or 3 generations ago, because you can see it in your mom and dad's, if you don't go back and deal with it back then and you just keep cutting it out, like over here, you're just going to keep perpetuating that generation after generation. And I know, for one, when I was listening to my daughter say, Mom, the way that you've gotten your healing has changed my life, and she said, I know that might sound dramatic and maybe I shouldn't say that, and I'm like, no, it absolutely is the truth. So when you can affect a change that's already touching the next generation right there in front of your eyes, then you're getting rid of that generational trauma. And all of us we're just products of of our environment. So there's nothing to be ashamed about that. It's just the way that it is, and nobody knows how to run their brain. Nobody talks about this. So um, if you can get to a point where you are actually able to accept help and get that healing for yourself, then whenever you are triggered, those gestalts are not filled up at all. They're regulated, and you don't have to get sick anymore, and you don't have to get angry or sad, completely depressed or full of anxiety. Hey Pat, hey Patty, it's good to see you ladies this morning. And you can only will yourself into living a certain way for so long, and then you're going to exhaust your resources, because again, like I said, your frontal lobe, your conscious mind, it only runs 4% of the show. So if you are trying so hard to saying, I'm not going to get triggered by this, I'm not going to get triggered by this, and you're like gritting your teeth and you're like, I'm not going to you're going to wear yourself out. And that's, you can only control yourself from your frontal lobe and from your willpower a certain percentage of the time, because God forbid you lose a job or you get sick, or hello, you get one poor night of sleep. I was just talking to my mom this morning. She got one poor night of sleep, and for 24 hours she felt like absolute crap. And if things are in your mind, and that's a lot of the times what causes us to have problems with our sleep too, things are in our mind all day long, and we need to be dealing with them, like say through journaling or meditation or a gratitude journal, or getting out the negative stuff or writing out the positive stuff, either one. But if you're not giving yourself a time to actually address what it is in your life that you're struggling with while you're awake, then your body will deal with it at night, and then it'll start waking you up. And then you think that you can handle you know willing yourself to death and efforting yourself to death for a while, but then yeah, you throw in one poor night of sleep, and and that'll completely ruin your abilities whatsoever. All right, Michelle is saying, if you don't deal with the trauma, you end up facing triggers and living in fear. Healing is possible. There is a way, and Dr. Stark can help give you the healing tools. Thank you, Michelle. Ask me how I know. She helped me learn what I do to heal myself. Yes, Michelle is a star client. She is has healed from the most indescribable, unimaginable childhood trauma that I personally have ever seen in my life. And I'm 52 years old, and I've seen a lot. And she's a walking evidence and testimony that these tools work, and she keeps working them. And she gave herself permission to heal. And she said she knew she hadn't gotten full healing, and I think she's in her 60s. Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 50s or 60s. And she was sick and tired again of being sick and tired. So she said, I have no choice than to get healed. And so she just worked like a workhorse until she got herself the healing that she deserves. Every one of us, our birthright is abundance and peace and serenity and control over our emotions. And I think so many of us, we kind of get numbed up to the fact that uh, life really shouldn't be that way. We see a bunch of other unhealed people around us, so you just say, oh, I'm not as bad as that person. Well, at least it's not as bad as that person. And so you just kind of like get into this rut of living a certain way. But when you finally kind of wake up and smell the coffee, and you're like, I'm not living the life I want to live, and I want to have a choice in my life, and I want to have the emotional availability to deal with everything that comes up in my life, and I want to be able to be safe, and I want to feel like I have a tribe that supports me. I just want you to know that we're here for you. I'm not going anywhere. It's my life's dream and my life's passion to help people just get rid of this stuff once and for all, especially men and women in the second halves of their lives, where you've gone through 10 or 15 years worth of healing, and you've spent so much money and so much time, and you've already seen the fallout, like the nuclear waste fallout of an unhealed life, where you are, relationships aren't where you want them to be, your finances aren't where you want them to be, you're sick of hurting other people, you're tired of not living your dream and your life and your job, and you know that you want options. Then reach out to me. And I always say, I'm my number one client. I work harder on myself than anybody, so that I can show you what's possible in your life. And I want you to just realize that everyone who's ever hurt you in your life was also triggered, and chances are they were also triggered, and they hurt you because they had no choice. And I just want you to know today, this morning, that you have a choice, and there is a way. And as long as you have the time and the resources, I always say it's expensive. It's expensive in time and money, but my goodness, what you've been doing for the first 40 years of your life, has that not been expensive? You know, you almost, in my opinion, can't afford not to do this, and you deserve it. You can fight for yourself. And like I said at the beginning of the talk, it'll pay you dividends for the rest of your life if you just give yourself 12 weeks right now. If you start right now, you can be finished by the first of the year. And 2023 will be the beginning of a whole new world for you, and really you start seeing benefits within the first week of working with the tools and in the program. So it will be my pleasure to talk to you. Just I'll drop the link below and I'll also put it up above. But it's so good to see you guys. I love you all so much. Take care, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 10.